Hello there, Ray here. Today I'll be explaining everything about my latest build, the WitherGrave, which is the fastest wither skeleton farm. First off, what makes this farm very different from the previous farms is that it uses a game mechanic that allows nether fortress mobs to spawn on top of nether brick blocks that are within the nether fortress structure rather than limited to just the bounding boxes within the nether fortress structure. What this means is that you don't have to just limit your farm to being placed inside of one of these nether fortress walkways, but you're actually allowed to put it anywhere within the actual nether fortress structure itself, which this structure over here actually starts way back here. This is actually the top southeast corner of the structure. Taking a look at the nether fortress structure area that the WitherGrave is within, we can see that the bottom northwest corner starts here, and way over here we have the other side, which is the top southeast corner. So you can see that the WitherGrave is just within the boundaries of this nether fortress structure area. This allows you to have more freedom on where you can place this farm. For example, if you found a huge lava lake with a vaulted ceiling with a nether fortress in the center, you could place this farm within the nether fortress structure no matter what type of walkways the actual nether fortress is made up of. Nether fortress mobs being able to spawn on nether brick blocks that are within the fortress area has always been a part of the game, and is even recorded in the official Minecraft wiki as an intended coded feature. But when 1.8 came out, there were some changes made to the nether fortress structure area. The main one being that you could no longer build wither skeleton farms above the bedrock ceiling. So it was not until El Baludo tested it out in 1.8 that we now know that it still exists in the game. I also tested it out in 1.9 snapshot, and it is also there as well. Using this feature, we are able to have a much larger area to spawn nether fortress mobs, which in turn gives us more flexibility on how big we can make our farms. The current downside to using nether brick block spawning floors is that in 1.9 snapshots, mobs will not fall through these floors. But luckily this farm can also be placed in a triple or quadruple intersection with a different block type making up the floors, and it will be just as fast as this one. The way this farm works is that the mobs spawn on the nether brick blocks and then activate the tripwire, which goes into my shifting floor mechanism, which will shift the floor, allowing the mobs to fall downwards through it. As you've seen, my shifting floor mechanism is insanely fast. It is actually instant reacting. So when a mob spawns inside the tripwire, it will activate this tripwire hook, which will power this piston, which will instantly push this block away, which will instantly depower this redstone, which will instantly depower this piston, removing this block away, allowing this redstone to come up through here and instantly power this piston. This whole thing will react within 1/20th of a second. On the other side of the shifting floor is the returning mechanism. The returning mechanism doesn't have to be as fast, but the way it works is that the tripwire powers this piston, which will depower these repeaters, which will depower this piston, which will allow this clock to pulse and send the floor back into the original position. My shifting floor design is tileable, which means that you can place these alternating slices right beside each other without one slice affecting the slice beside it. My shifting floors are also stackable, which allows you to add more layers on top if you need to do so. I have designed and built many wither skeleton farms over the years, and I understand that it is important to keep the server in an acceptable playing state. So the most important part about my shifting floors is that there is no tile entities or light updates in the wiring. This is important because if you had these within a farm of this size, it would pull your entire server down so low that everyone on the server would be lagging as long as it was loaded. There is a chance that a mob could spawn on top of this wiring in the split second it takes for the piston to retract and extend. I watched the farm in action, and I have never seen a mob spawn there. If a mob were to spawn there, it would either get crushed or despawn over time. One of the main problems that wither skeleton farms run into is lava slimes. Because of their large size, it is difficult to remove them from inside the farm. The way I deal with lava slimes in the farm is by preventing them from spawning. Since big and small lava slimes have to need a 3x3 area to spawn, I have placed in a block pattern on top of the floor that will not give a 3x3 area which they need to spawn. This farm will still allow tiny lava slimes to spawn in. The tiny lava slimes will most likely get killed while falling through the shifting floors, but some of them will make it to the killing chute. But tiny lava slimes do not drop magma cream, so no magma cream will be produced with this farm. I have used cobble walls here to prevent tiny slimes from easily jumping on top of the tripwire, causing the tripwire to be activated and the floor to continuously shift. Then I placed in some fence gates around the cobble walls. This will cause the cobble wall to act just like a full block and prevent the big and small lava slimes from spawning in the center here. When the mobs fall through the shifting floor, they will end up here on this ice here. This is normal ice to prevent pigmen from spawning, but if you put this in a fortress walkway, you could replace this with packed ice and get more fortress mob spawns. The second most noticeable part of this farm is my gas slat conveyor belts. These are a key component for the speed of this farm. To turn on the gas slat conveyor belts, there is a lever here which turns them on. If you would like to rewire this to a different location, you can. With this setup, the gas will always be pushing the mobs towards the central killing chute and will never be wasting time by backtracking or by pushing the mobs in the wrong direction. You may notice that the gas are coming by in an alternating pattern. This allows for a steady stream of mobs to be dropped off for the player to kill. With the gas slat conveyor belt, there are a few things I had to overcome to make it possible. The first being that the rail line had to be spawn proof at all times. I did this by using a few tricks. Where the gas comes from the top rail and goes down onto the returning rail, I used a trick where minecarts will attach to a rail that is less than 1 meter below it, even if there is a bottom slab in between the two. Over here, where the returning line ascends into the top line, there is a point at which conventional slabs will cause the minecart to get stuck here, so I used a top trapdoor here. This prevents mobs from spawning, as well it gives enough room for the minecart to make the transition onto the top line. I have placed stairs above the entire route of the rail line at the height of the gassed ice to prevent them from shooting you when in survival mode. Within the holding bay, the gas can shoot at you while the farm is turned on. This is because having them any lower would cause them to suffocate. Since ice has the same property as TNT or sea lanterns, where mobs can not spawn on it but can suffocate in it. That's why there is 2 stair blocks here to prevent the gas from suffocating while they fall onto the bottom rail. I added some trapdoors here. This will allow pigman jockeys, which cannot be moved by gas, to try to pathfind across this to get to the other side. This will allow them to fall in. With the central killing chute, you will want the player to be close to the incoming mobs so that you can kill them sooner, but not so close that the player prevents mobs from spawning on the floors above him. If you are just using the infinitely automatic mode with dogs, you will want to have the mobs fall so that they are a one-hit kill for the dogs. What I have it set up for now is the best of both situations. For manual killing mode, there is a minecart that will move you side to side. All you have to do is get your killing sword, preferably one with sharpness 5, unbreaking 3, and looting 3. And it's also helpful to have strength 2 and regen beacon effects. For maximum killing efficiency, you'll want to aim upwards and slightly off in the direction that you are traveling. This allows you to always be aiming at new mobs and not being slowed down by the death animation of the mobs in the corners. The area in which the player travels to kill the mobs is quite small, making so that every sword swing has a chance of striking a mob. Above the hoppers are repeaters. These are to prevent tiny lava slimes and chickens from hopping onto your rail system here. If you would like to have the farm run in infinitely automatic AFK mode, you should have the dogs standing on bottom slabs on both sides of the killing chute. This keeps them safe from the crushers. For you to get the XPs, you will want to be sitting in a boat close enough so that the XPs will come to you. To turn the crushers on, you will need to turn this hopper clock on over here, and then you will want to put in the redstone so it connects the clock to the crushers. This will allow the crushers to come in and crush all the 2 high mobs. This also includes baby pigmen and lava slimes. The way I tested the farms was by counting how many mobs the player would be able to kill on average. So I would sit in the cart and I would have an auto clicker that would click 10 times a second, which is possible for humans with a technique called jitter clicking. The results I got from my farm was an average of 250 mobs killed by the player a minute. I did the exact same test with the Wither Wiper and I got an average of 110 mobs killed by the player a minute. By using the sideways facing technique, the player was able to kill 280 mobs per minute. I was asked to test the Wither Wiper without using the sorting system. There is currently no option to turn the sorting system off, so I modified it so that the mobs would come straight down without going through the sorter. The player was able to kill 190 mobs a minute with this setup. You can see from these results that my farm is substantially better than the Wither Wiper. In terms of average skulls per minute, the Wither Wiper without the sorting system produced an average of 3 skulls per minute. My farm, the WitherGrave, produced an average of 5 skulls per minute. You may remember that ZipCrowd said that the Wither Wiper averaged 4.5 skulls a minute. These results were heavily altered by using more players to load more chunks and to raise the mob cap to over 2 times as high as normal. They also started their tests with the entire killing chute full of wither skeletons and only ran the test for 30 minutes. Not to mention that it takes place in 1.7, which has an increased mob spawning rate. My farm also gives an insane amount of XPs. You can go from 0 to level 30 in about 35 seconds. You will get a large amount of loot from this farm. So down here, there is 4 separate sorting lines which will sort and store all the items from this farm. The ratio of wither skeletons to other mobs that are killed in my farm is higher than other farms because the majority of lava slimes are killed in the shifting floors and are not killed by the player, therefore raising the ratio. Here is a world which I ran a test for the length of 1 diamond sword's durability worth, which just happens to be about an hour. And as you can see it by the stats, of all the mobs I killed in the farm, only 2 magma cubes came into the killing chamber. In 1.8, blazes will aggro on you if you hit them, so it is important that you kill them in one hit so they don't try to shoot you through the wall and end up hitting another blaze, causing them to fly upwards and end up killing the gas. The world download will be in the video's description if you would like to know how to build this. There you have it, guys, an explanation of the fastest wither skeleton farm, the WitherGrave, with a world download. If you found this interesting, show me with a like. If you'd like to see what impossible achievement I do next, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to comment. Bye-bye.